Y'all, I still don't know how to talk about this without my stomach turning. 2 months ago, I found out my husband of 7 years, the man I thought was my person, my rock, my best friend, had drained our savings account. Not for a medical emergency. Not for something noble like helping his family. He used it all to fund his mistress's art career. Let me say that again. This man emptied everything we had to help another woman, an Instagram watercolor influencer with like 300 followers, rent a studio, print business cards, then buy a $4,000 iPad she didn't even know how to turn on at first. I'm still trying to figure out how the guy who once cried watching Pixar movies ended up being this. I'm not talking about some petty betrayal. This man torched our financial future. Our plans for a home for kids, like everything. And then, get this, when I confronted him, he tried to flip it on me like I was the unstable one. Said I was overreacting, controlling, and jealous of her freedom. Bro, I was holding bank statements with his name on every single charge. Jealous. Be for real. But the worst part is that everyone, and I mean everyone, believed him. His mom. Our mutual friends. Even my own sister said, maybe he just needed a creative outlet? I was the one left picking up the pieces, crying on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., while he was out drinking matcha lattes with his side chick like he didn't just nuke our lives. I told myself I was done. I filed for divorce, I blocked him, I ghosted the world, I tried to rebuild. I even got a roommate off Craigslist just to make rent. But then, 2 months later, something happened. Something that made everything 10 times worse. Something that made me realize this wasn't just about money. It was never just about her either. It was about why he chose her over me. And once I found out, I swear I've never cried harder in my life. But let me rewind. So, I met Daniel 9 years ago at a mutual friend's Halloween party. He was dressed as some obscure anime character I'd never heard of. I had cat ears and a bottle of wine. It was a vibe. He made me laugh immediately, and honestly, that man was charming AF. Not in a red flag way, or so I thought, just goofy, self-deprecating kind. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Our wedding was small, intimate, beautiful. I still have the video on a dusty hard drive somewhere. Us slow dancing in a field while our friends did karaoke in the background. I remember thinking, this is it, this is my person. And for the first few years it was good. Like really good. We weren't rich, but we were stable. We both worked full-time, me in project management, him in UX design. We had dreams, saved every month, took anniversary trips on cheap airlines. We were the couple that people looked at and said, goals. So yeah, I thought we were solid. But looking back now, I mean, there were cracks. And I was too in love, or maybe too naive, to see them. Daniel had this weird relationship with boundaries. Like, he always needed external validation, especially from women. At first, I brushed it off as him being social. He had tons of female friends, and I told myself, you're secure, don't be that girl. But then little stuff started stacking up. He'd comment on girls' selfies like these goofy fire emojis or queen behavior or something like that. And if I ever said something, he'd act like I was the insecure one. Once, at a party, I caught him telling a girl that he and I were in an open thing, which was news to me. When I called him out later, he said it was a joke, that I was being dramatic, that I needed to chill. Spoiler, gaslighting alert. Then there were the money lies. Daniel hated budgeting. Hated talking about finances, we'd fight anytime I brought it up. One time I asked if he contributed to our joint savings that month and he full-on sulked for 3 days. He called me obsessed with control. All I wanted was to make sure we could, afford a house someday. But I let it slide. I always let it slide. Even when I found random Amazon purchases he couldn't explain, even when I caught him hiding Venmo payments with vague emojis. I told myself he was just bad with money, not malicious. Y'all, I was a clown. Full nose, floppy shoes, the whole getup. Okay, so the big moment. It was a random Tuesday in March. I was doing laundry. Boring stuff. Folding socks while watching old episodes of Grey's Anatomy and crying over a fake plane crash. I went to grab a pair of his jeans and his wallet fell out. The flap was open and a receipt slid out. I wasn't snooping, I swear, but the name on it caught my eye. Eucalyptus Art Loft, studio rental deposit, $1,200. I had never heard of this place, and it sure as heck wasn't mine. My heart sank. I googled it. It was a trendy art space downtown, mostly rented by influencers and art collectives. Their website was giving I journal about crystals and make $10,000 a month from resin jewelry vibes. And then I found her. Instagram handle, @heavenly.briar. A woman with long blonde waves, sparkles under her eyes, and an I'm just here to create beauty bio. She had a recent post tagged at Eucalyptus Loft. Caption, new beginnings, black heart emoji, grateful to my biggest supporter. And guess who had liked it? Daniel. Yeah, plot twist incoming. I clicked through her Instagram like I was peeling back the layers of a nightmare I didn't know I was living in. Each post was a piece of a puzzle I hadn't agreed to play. She looked exactly like the kind of girl Daniel used to call low effort. Those curated, I'm not like other girls types with vague captions and grainy photos of coffee mugs and bare feet on windowsills. She had that whole artsy fairycore aesthetic going. Loose linen dresses, crystals in moonlight, captions like softness is strength and don't chase love, attract it. My whole body was shaking. I couldn't stop scrolling, and that's when I saw it. Carousel post. 10 pictures of her studio setup. Candles, paintbrushes, thrifted rugs, a chaotic collage of unfinished paintings. In the last photo, her hand is resting on a brand new iPad Pro, Apple Pencil next to it with a caption that made me want to throw my phone out the window. Manifestation works. All I had to do was open myself up to love, and the universe delivered. Delivered what? You mean my husband and our savings account? Like girl. I waited for Daniel to come home, which felt like the longest 3 hours of my life. When he finally walked in, all chill and casual, holding Chipotle like it was any other Tuesday, I just stared at him, and I said, calm as I could manage, "Who TF is Breyer?" He blinked, then tilted his head like I just asked him to define quantum physics. "Who you're talking about? Don't play dumb," I snapped, pulling up the studio receipt. Eucalyptus loft, Instagram, the iPad, the studio, the money. Who is she? Just silence. And then he goes, "Babe, listen, it's not what it looks like. Are you kidding me? If this had been a TV show, I would have thrown something dramatic like a wine glass. But this was real life. And all I had the strength to do was laugh. That awful, shaky, about to sob kind of laugh. You emptied our savings to support your side chick's watercolor dreams. Explain to me how that's not what it looks like." That's when the mask came off. Daniel suddenly got defensive. "You never believed in my creative side," he said. "I felt unsupported for years. Breyer actually sees me. She sees what I'm capable of." I swear I almost choked. "You mean she sees your bank account?" I snapped. "She sees an idiot willing to bankroll her Etsy light art studio, while his actual wife is out here couponing toilet paper." Y'all, he had the nerve to look hurt. "You don't get it," he said. "You've always been rigid, obsessed with money, budgets, rules. I needed space to breathe." Space? You needed space, so you financially suffocated me? This man really thought he was the main character. Then he started listing off all the things he'd sacrificed in our marriage. How I didn't laugh at his business idea last year because it was literally a pyramid scheme. How I shot down his dream of quitting his job to become a design content coach. How I didn't support him emotionally while he was finding himself. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs the first year of our marriage to pay off his car loan. I packed him lunches. I covered for him when he got laid off. I even helped fix his resume. But sure, I'm the problem because I didn't vibe with watercolor Breyer and her glittery manifestations. What happened next? "Well, I wish I was making it up," he actually said. "Maybe if you hadn't been so controlling, I wouldn't have had to lie." Oh my gosh. I had to sit down. Like literally, I had to sit down before I fainted from the emotional whiplash. "You think this is my fault?" I asked. "You really think I made you cheat? I made you lie about our money?" And then, he goes, "I didn't cheat. Breyer and I are just emotionally connected. We haven't slept together." As if that made it okay. As if draining our life savings for his not a mistress was totally fine because he hadn't literally slept with her yet. The man was delusional. And just like that, he flipped the narrative. Started pacing the room, muttering about how I blew this out of proportion, how I was reacting emotionally, how I was destroying the marriage over a misunderstanding. At one point, he even tried to hug me. I backed away so fast I almost tripped over the coffee table. I just looked at him and said the calmest words I've ever spoken. "I want a divorce. And I want every penny of that money accounted for." He laughed. "Oh, you'll want to rethink that," he said. "Once people hear your side, they're gonna think you're bitter, that you gave up on us. You're going to look crazy, not me." Plot twist incoming. He was actually half right, 'cause guess what? That's exactly what happened. I swear, if gaslighting were an Olympic sport, Daniel would have taken gold. Within a week of me asking for the divorce, my phone started blowing up, but not with the support I expected. "No, you okay?" texts. "No, wanna grab wine?" invites or something. Instead, I was getting passive-aggressive messages like, "He told me you were going through a rough patch mentally. Hope you're taking care of yourself." It's sad how people give up on marriage so easily these days. "You really didn't need to make this so public, babe." Public? I hadn't told anyone yet. But clearly he had. Apparently, in Daniel's version of the story, I had become unreasonable, emotionally distant, and get this, financially manipulative. He told people I refused to support his creativity, that I hoarded money, that I was manipulative with spreadsheets, whatever that even means, and constantly belittled his dreams. He even told one of our mutual friends that I was deeply insecure and threatened by Breyer's natural light. Natural light, y'all. Not talent. Not personality. Not even looks. Just her vibe. And people believed him. Now listen, I get that breakups make people weird, but some of the people who took his side, shocking. Like Julia. Julia was my maid of honor. We've known each other since college. We cried together watching The Notebook and shared a toothbrush once on a camping trip because we're disgusting like that. But when she called me, her tone was off. "I don't know, girl," she said. "He seems really broken up about it. Maybe you were too hard on him?" "Too hard?" "Julia," I said. "He drained our account to fund his mistress's Etsy hobby." She got quiet for a second. Then she said something that made my blood go cold. "He told me she's not his mistress. He said they're in love. That he's finally found someone who sees him." I couldn't even respond. She followed up with, "I'm not taking sides, but maybe try to understand that everyone deserves to be happy." Everyone deserves to be happy? What about me? What about my happiness? I hung up and haven't talked to her since. I hit rock bottom on a Thursday. I'd just gotten off the phone with my bank, trying for the 4th time to dispute the withdrawals from our joint account. It was useless. All the transfers were legal. He'd taken it out in chunks, labeled everything under vague nonsense like consulting fees and equipment. All the paperwork was technically clean. I sat on the kitchen floor in my old hoodie eating peanut butter out of the jar while my Craigslist roommate, some guy named Landon who only communicated in grunts and TikTok audios, walked past me like I was a potted plant. It was that kind of low. That's when I remembered our old hard drive, the one where we'd saved all our wedding footage and anniversary photos and home renovation Pinterest boards. I don't know why, but I pulled it out. I clicked through folder after folder. And y'all, I don't know what possessed me to go digging, but somewhere deep inside the anniversary trip Mexico folder, I found a screenshot. A screenshot of a Venmo transaction from me to Daniel, $300 labeled, for the Airbnb baby, black heart emoji. The date? Same week Briar had tagged him in a story with the caption, "Exploring with my favorite person." I just stared at the screen. It was like realizing you'd been the side character in your own relationship, that while you were planning anniversaries and building a life, he was building an exit. 2 days later, I got a text from Daniel. "Can we talk? This is getting out of hand." I ignored it. Then he sent another. "My mom wants to know if you're still coming to dinner next Sunday." Excuse me? Apparently, he hadn't told his family we were separating. His mother, who once cried when I brought her homemade cinnamon rolls, thought we were fine. She was planning a little family dinner. And get this, Daniel had told her we had exciting news to share. Bro, what? Like a baby kind of news? I almost texted her. I wanted to, but I didn't. Because if I was gonna tell his mom the truth, I was gonna do it face to face. While I was out here getting iced out by mutual friends and contemplating switching to instant noodles full time, Miss Sparkles under her eyes was thriving. She had a whole new highlight reel. Studio Days, my angel investor, The Journey. She posted an unboxing video of that iPad, the one Daniel bought with our emergency savings, and titled it, "Sometimes the universe sends exactly what you need when you stop chasing and start receiving." Girl, the universe didn't send that. I did. With my money. Her art was mostly watercolor blobs with deep captions like soul work, and this piece is about pain, obviously. Like, girl, I get it. We all took a Tumblr poetry class in 2012. Chill. But what really sent me? TikTok. One of those soft life aesthetic montages soundtracked by Lana Del Rey. Briar's voiceover said, "I was once told I was too dreamy, that I needed to grow up, but when you find someone who funds your dreams instead of crushing them, keep him. The real ones only. Real ones only? Girl, be serious." So yeah, against my better judgment, I decided to show up at the dinner. I know. Everyone I told about it was like, "Girl, are you trying to give yourself an ulcer?" But here's the thing, Daniel's family had always treated me like one of their own. His mom, Karen, yes, that's really her name, but she's not that kind of Karen, used to text me holiday recipes and check in after my job interviews. And the fact that Daniel was lying to them, using me to keep up appearances while he played house with Briar? Like, nope, I wasn't letting him get away with it. So I put on my functional human being face, straightened my hair, and wore the exact dress Daniel once said made me look too professional to be soft. That was the point. Karen opened the door with a big smile and hugged me like she hadn't just been lied to by her son for weeks. "Oh, sweetie, you look stunning." "Thanks, Karen. You do too." Even though she was in a velour tracksuit from 2010, the whole table was already set. Daniel was in the kitchen pouring wine like nothing was wrong. I swear, when he saw me, his whole face twitched. He tried to give me that smirk, the play-along babe look he'd always used when we were at events he didn't want to be at. This time, I didn't play along. "Nice of you to invite me," I said, just loud enough for his mom to hear. He gave a little laugh, probably thinking I wouldn't make a scene. "Oh, buddy, you picked the wrong version of me today." Right before dinner, Karen clapped her hands and said, "So, Danny tells me you two have news." I froze. He looked at me, then at his mom and said, "We're thinking about moving out of the city." Just a maybe. I choked on my wine. That was our plan. One we made before he burned our savings. Now he's recycling it to keep his mommy dearest happy? I put down my glass, smiled, and said, "Oh no, we're not doing anything. Daniel and I are actually getting divorced." The silence. You could hear the salad dressing sweating. Karen blinked like I just told her I was joining a cult. Daniel tried to laugh it off. "She's just upset, Mom. She doesn't mean that." "I absolutely mean that," I said. He emptied our savings account to fund another woman's art studio. He's been seeing her behind my back. 4 months. Karen dropped her fork. First, she looked horrified. Then something weird happened. Her expression shifted. Almost like guilt. "Daniel," she said slowly. "Is this true?" He didn't deny it. Just stared at his plate. Karen looked back at me and said quietly, "I think we need to talk. Just us." Daniel protested, but she gave him the mom glare and pointed to the hallway. He left, sulking like a grounded teenager. She turned to me and said, "I was afraid this would happen again." "Again? What do you mean again?" She looked tired. Older suddenly. Like she'd been carrying something heavy for too long. "That girl, Briar," she said. "She's not the first. Y'all, I'm not even kidding. Apparently 3 years ago, right after Daniel lost his job and I was working overtime to keep us afloat, there was another woman. Her name was Elise. A coworker at his old job. Karen said she only found out because Daniel accidentally sent her a text meant for Elise. It was something about missing her laugh and how he couldn't wait to hold her again. When Karen confronted him, he claimed it was just emotional, nothing physical, and swore he'd ended it. She made him promise to tell me, but he never did. And Karen? She didn't follow up. She figured it was a rough patch and that he was still young, still figuring it out. "I thought he'd grow out of it," she said. "I never thought he'd take your money." The air left my lungs. So he'd already done this. Years ago. And just kept going? "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. Karen looked down at her lap. "Because I didn't want to lose you. You were good for him. You were stable. I thought if you stayed, he'd settle down. I was wrong. Y'all." I wanted to scream, cry, flip the entire table. Instead, I stood up, grabbed my bag, and said, "Thanks for the salad, Karen. Hope you enjoy your next daughter-in-law." I didn't text him. I didn't call. I figured he'd go quiet after that. But nope. This man showed up at my apartment the next day, holding a stupid little box. Inside, a paintbrush. with a note that said, "To remember the art that destroyed us. I hope one day you understand. Bro, you're lucky I didn't use that brush to paint your face with rage. I was already broken. Like, not just sad, not just mad. I'm talking fully shattered. I couldn't listen to any songs we used to play in the car. I deleted playlists, photos, even recipes. Everything felt poisoned. But I still didn't understand why he did it. Why someone would torch 7 years with their best friend for a woman who painted moon phases on tote bags and quoted Rumi like it was deep. So I did what every unhinged, emotionally fried ex-wife has done at least once in history. I called the Mistress. I found her email on her website for collaborations and creative energy exchange, whatever that meant. And I wrote, "Hi, Briar. I'm Daniel's wife. I know everything. I'm not here to scream or threaten. I just want to know the truth. Why him? Why me? Please." I expected silence or some snarky reply like, manifest your own closure, babe, you know? But she responded, fast. "I think you deserve honesty. Can we talk? I'll meet you in public, obviously. I don't want drama." We picked a little cafe downtown. I wore sunglasses and brought pepper spray in my purse. Don't judge me, I was emotionally unstable and ready for anything. She showed up and y'all, she looked exactly how I imagined. Flowing skirt, crochet top, glitter on her cheekbones at 2 p.m. She sat down, took a deep breath and said, "He told me you knew. But I didn't know the full truth either. I didn't know he was still living with you." My blood ran cold. Till living with me? Turns out Daniel had been painting an entirely different version of me to her. He told Briar that I was emotionally manipulative, that I manipulated him with money, that I refused to let him leave because I couldn't afford life without him. He made me sound like some monster who used financial threats to trap him in a loveless marriage. And she believed him. "Honestly," she said, stirring her tea like she wasn't dropping bombs, "I thought you were toxic, that you'd ruined his spirit." I was speechless, until she pulled out her phone and showed me texts, screenshots, actual messages Daniel had sent her. Tough like, "She only cares about money. She doesn't see me as a person anymore. I'm scared of her sometimes, but I can't leave yet. She'll ruin me. You're the only one who sees who I really am." I sat there reading lie after lie about me from my own husband, while this woman dabbed at her eyes like we were both victims. And then she said something that shattered whatever was left of my ability to process emotions. "He told me he chose me because I reminded him of his mom." I blinked. Hard. "His mom?" She nodded. "He said you were practical, that you reminded him of responsibility, but I reminded him of freedom, of joy, of who he was before life got serious." I swear I almost blacked out. So let me get this straight. I reminded him of the woman who cooked for him, cleaned up his messes, stayed loyal, paid the bills, and took care of his crap? And she reminded him of vibes? He didn't choose her because she was better than me. He chose her because she was easier, because she didn't require growth, because she didn't know him well enough to see how weak he really was. Briar must have seen the realization hit me because she immediately tried to soften the blow. "I'm not saying he was right," she said. "He lied to both of us. I ended things with him after I found out he was still living with you. That was 2 weeks ago. I blocked him after that. And then, like she was offering me a consolation prize, she said, 'You were clearly too good for him. I see that now. Cool. Thanks. Super helpful, girl.'" We ended the conversation civilly. I walked back to my car like a zombie, sat there staring at the steering wheel for a full hour just breathing, and I realized something. He didn't pick her instead of me. He picked her because he couldn't handle me, because I expected growth, because I held him accountable, because I knew him too well. For the first time since this whole disaster started, I felt peace. Not because I got answers, but because I realized I didn't need them anymore. He wasn't the man I married. Maybe he never was. Maybe he was always just wearing the version of himself that I believed in, and once it didn't fit anymore, he swapped it out for someone easier to impress. Someone who would call his trauma poetic instead of telling him to go to therapy. Alright, let me paint you a picture. 6:12 a.m. I'm standing barefoot in my kitchen, eating a granola bar that expired 2 weeks ago, scrolling through my bank app on 1% battery. Balance, $134.62. There's a hole in the ceiling from the last storm. My roommate Landon just used the last of the hot water for one of his 45-minute self-reflection showers. I'm behind on rent, behind on sleep, and definitely behind on figuring out what the heck I'm doing with my life. That was my rock bottom. It was the moment I realized, no one is coming to save me. So I decided to save myself. First thing I did was get serious about money, like spreadsheet serious, budget app serious, canceling everything but internet serious. I started freelancing again. Picked up an old side hustle from college, ghostwriting blog content for small businesses. Not glamorous, but it paid. I sold a bunch of Daniel's stuff that he'd left behind. His rare vinyl collection? Gone. That $600 gaming chair? Facebook Marketplace. His designer hoodie that still smelled like Briar's rose oil? Burned it. Emotionally fulfilling and cathartic. I even pawned the watch I bought him for our 5-year anniversary. The guy at the counter asked if it was a breakup. I said, more like a hostile merger dissolution. He gave me $80 and a thumbs up. It's funny, the people I thought would be there? Ghosted. But the ones I never expected actually showed up. One of Daniel's old co-workers, Priya, reached out. We barely knew each other, exchanged small talk at work barbecues, but she messaged me out of the blue. "Hey, I heard what happened. You didn't deserve that. If you ever need freelance clients, I have some leads." She gave me my first real gig, a $300 project. That little win felt bigger than any ring Daniel ever gave me. Then there was Claire, my upstairs neighbor. I used to think she was low-key shady because she never made eye contact in the hallway. Turns out she's just socially anxious and chronically online. When I told her what I'd been through, she brought over hot chocolate and a box of instant noodles. We watched trashy dating shows and screamed at the TV together. She became my unofficial emotional support goblin. "I've dated a Daniel," she said once. Mine was named Jake and believed NFTs were spiritual. I felt seen. I also started therapy. I told my therapist, I don't want to talk about childhood trauma. I want to talk about how I became wife of the year to a man who thought painting moons on canvas was a career plan. She gave me actual tools to stop blaming myself. And I started talking. Like really talking. I made a TikTok. There's me, sitting in my crusty hoodie, no makeup, saying, POV. You find out your husband drained your savings to fund his mistress's art career, and people still think you're the dramatic one. It actually blew up LOL. 600,000 views in a week. Thousands of comments. Women telling their own stories. People sending hugs, memes, and art. One girl said, "Your pain made me laugh and cry at the same time. Is that weird?" Not weird at all, girl. Saved me too. About a month into my healing era, I got a message from Daniel's new number. "You really had to make it public? You embarrassed me." I left it on read. Then I heard from his ex-boss because small world. Turns out my blog client used to work with Daniel. He casually mentioned, "Oh yeah, that guy got fired a few weeks ago. Something about using company time and equipment for personal projects. You mean like designing Breyer's website?" Oof. Apparently, HR found emails linking his work computer to multiple PayPal charges tied to her Etsy account, which, fun fact, had terrible reviews. Canvas fell apart in the rain. Paint smeared like melted lipstick. Not worth $80 for a moon goddess-inspired expression of grief. I didn't even have to get revenge. The universe handled it. I didn't block Daniel. Not because I wanted him back, but because I wanted him to watch. Watch me rebuild. Watch me get my own apartment. Bye, Landon, no more moist towels on the couch. Watch me land a full-time remote job and keep freelancing on the side. To watch me post TikToks that get thousands of likes from women saying, "You're living my story," or "This made me leave my own Daniel." Watch me laugh again. I wasn't angry anymore, I was free. Fast forward 6 months. If you had told me back when I was crying on the floor with $134 in my bank account that one day I'd be this okay, I would have laughed. Or thrown my expired granola bar at you. Or both. But now I wake up in an apartment I picked for me. Sunlight hits my favorite plant. My new sheets are lavender because he hated lavender. And I drink my coffee from a mug that says, "You can't gaslight a girl who journaled," which I bought ironically, but now it's kinda my vibe. The freelance clients turned into a full-blown gig. And get this, one of my blog posts just got picked up by a brand's newsletter with over 100,000 subscribers. They even quoted me with my name and everything. I'm not rich. I'm not healed to perfection, but I'm not surviving anymore either. I'm living. After everything blew up, I let go of a lot of people. Julia? Gone. Mutuals who didn't want to take sides? Also gone. People who liked Breyer's art posts while telling me they had no idea? Blocked. But the ones who stayed, they're real. They check in just to check in. They drop by with sushi and chaos energy. They don't ask me why I didn't leave sooner. They just say, "I'm glad you're out." And honestly, that's enough. He moved. Apparently, he's living in Arizona now, trying to start over. Breyer? Gone. Didn't last long. Word on the grapevine is she moved in with a DJ named Skylar who believes in sound baths and doesn't believe in clocks. Daniel tried reaching out once more. Sent me a Spotify link to our song. Caption: "You'll always be my greatest what if." I didn't even open it. Instead, I texted back, "Bro, you're not my what if. You're my never again." Blocked. For good this time. I'm not jaded. I thought I'd leave all this with trust issues the size of Jupiter. But I still believe in love. I just don't believe in losing myself for it. The next person I let into my life? They're gonna meet the woman who burned down her old life and rebuilt it one brick at a time, with boundaries, self-worth, and better taste in Spotify playlists. I'm not looking to be anyone's therapist, savior, or fantasy muse. If you've ever been where I was, stuck in a situation where you loved someone who didn't deserve it, where you gave your best to someone who saw it as a convenience, let this be your sign. It's okay to walk away, even when it's messy, even when people don't believe you, even when it feels like you're burning your whole life to the ground. 'Cause sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find what you actually deserve.